interest of time, we'll go ahead and get our meeting to order here at 12:35. Mayor will be joining us shortly. First item on the agenda, we've just got our approval of minutes from April 15th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So move.
And I will support. Any discussion? Comments? All righty. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries. That'll bring us to discussion of strategy. So we've got a presentation today on our south side, Creekways planning update, which we initially had a little bit of discussion this morning at our committee of the whole meeting. So we will welcome you to the mic, and we'll hand it over. Oh, I think your mic. Yeah, tap the button right there.
There we go. Good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm Carrie Enriquez, and I'm the project manager for the Parks Department. And I just wanted to present a little bit on this, what we're calling the Southside Creekways project. So that is looking at both the Silver Creek and Plaster Creek Trail project. Here is the project team. As you can see, there's quite a bit of different departments from the city that are involved in the project, as there's trail segments that we're looking at, environmental quality that we're looking at, as well as daylighting, and then zoning potential regulations, as well as planning. And then at the bottom is the list of the consultant team that we have. So Smith Group is the main consultant for the project. And then Sidewalk Detroit is the community engagement partner that we have. They were also the community engagement partner on the city master plan. So in addition to the project team that we just went over, we also have a community leadership team. So these are folks that were hired by Sidewalk Detroit, community members to help facilitate conversations in the community and lead by example, as well as just the community residents and businesses. So looking at the community leadership team, these are the members who make up the different teams that we have. So again, these are people who are advancing discussions at a community level and neighborhood level, ensuring that they're getting involved with their neighbors, their family, and their friends, and those that live and work in this area specifically. So our project intent, so we are really looking at both the Silver Creek corridor as well as the Plaster Creek corridor, how they operate separately and how they operate together to create a connected system that's going to improve the quality of life for the residents and for the businesses as well. Our main 5 topics that we're looking at are the connectivity with the trailway, so looking at ways to connect through those communities and also ways for that to eventually connect to the downtown corridor. We're looking at the economic strategy, so ways that this project can support local business and growth as well as the residents. We're also looking at water quality, daylighting, ways to improve the green infrastructure along this corridor. We're looking at ways to include art and culture into this trailway system and corridor to, reflect the identity of the community. And then also making sure that the land use aligns with the community needs and opportunities for the businesses and the residents. So here's the project area. If we start on the south end, so Plaster Creek corridor, there's an existing creek, an existing trail. There's a small little gap that, but you can use the street at 28th Street that we're looking at closing. But otherwise, this starts at Ken O'Shea Trail. That is where the trailhead is, and it travels through the city, and right now it currently ends at Plaster Creek Family Park. And there's a gap because we have 131 and rail yards that we're working on ways to figure out how to kind of bridge that gap. On the north side, you can see the Silver Creek corridor. So Silver Creek is actually underground. About 98% of it is underground in a culvert. It only daylights in a couple of places, one of those being the Adams Street apartments that are over in the Boston Square area. So we're looking at ways that we could potentially daylight that creek, but also put a trail system in there as well. They wouldn't necessarily go hand in hand. The trail system could be, a couple blocks off from the creek, depending on what makes the best sense for routes. And then looking at that confluence area. So the Silver Creek goes into Plaster Creek, which goes into the Grand River. So looking at that, going all the way over to Roosevelt Park, and then eventually connecting to the Oxford Trail system, and then up to the Greenway and Riverfront network. So looking at the values and goals that we have for this project, really looking at ways to connect the community, so ways that this trail system, this corridor, can help provide additional jobs, additional connectivity amongst the neighbors, as well as opportunity for outdoor recreation. Ensuring that this trail system is safe and it has universal design and it has, lighting and all the amenities that the community is attributed with a safe and accessible trail system. Looking at the vibrancy and culture of that, so the potential for art and humanities along that space, as well as activation that the communities will be looking for. We're also starting to look at the potential for anti-displacement and what we might do to look into that a little bit deeper, as well as wealth building and really improving the vibrancy of this area. And then finally, the sustainability, both sustainability from a maintenance standpoint, as well as the stormwater management and the trail system. So here we have a connectivity map. The next few slides are just going to kind of show some mapping that we've just started working on. So this looks at our proposed bike plan that we have, as well as some vital streets improvements and street improvements and trail segments, and just trying to look at how we can tie that all together so we don't necessarily just have two trails that lead out into the city separately. Is there a way for us to create a looped system? Looking at our community assets. So we did have a community dinner a couple weeks ago, and we started really listing out what those community assets are. So looking at restaurants, places of worship, schools, housing areas for what people really identify and love about their community, but also looking at some of those other areas that may need some improvements. Demographic-wise, we are doing an equity analysis, so really doing heat maps where we're looking at households that are below the poverty level, households that have either youth population under 18 or senior population over 60, houses that do not have a vehicle available, as well as unemployed population over the age of 16. And then environmental as well, so looking at opportunities for greening, so increasing the green infrastructure that we have in this community and also decreasing the hard surfaces and heat islands that we have, looking at the potential for stream restoration and environmental health. So where we are currently with this project, we are still in the discovery phase, so we're still doing a lot of community engagement, meeting with the neighbors and the residents in the area, just kind of getting all of their feedback. We're also digging into a bunch of maps and data that we have from the city over all the different departments so that we can have all this data that we can, start really diving into. Phase 2 is going to start in September, so that's going to start creating potential alternatives that we have both for trail alignments as well as daylighting and other economic development opportunities. Our next big push for community is going to be some walk and talks that we're going to be doing in early October. And then finally, we will finish up next year. So we'll start in the summer with the recommendations from the project team, go back out to the community to ensure we've heard everything and then we're on the right track. And then this will all finish up by the end of 2026. This is tied to city ARPA funding. It's $1.5 million. So we do have that timeline of getting this all done by the end of 2026. So that is the end of my presentation. I'll take questions if anybody has any.
I have a first question. How much of Plaster Creek can you actually walk right now? Plaster Creek has always seemed to me sort of like the Snuffleupagus. I know it exists, but I don't know where it is, and I've never seen it.
Yep. So Plaster Creek, so the trailhead starts at Ken O'Shea. So that is a school park site that's located on Kalamazoo and 28th-ish. And so you can actually, there's a trail system that'll take you all the way to Eastern. So at Eastern, you do have to take the sidewalk along Eastern and along 28th, and then it connects again on the northwest side of that intersection.
So you're saying there's like a paved walkway
Yes.
along the side of that? From Eastern, I see.
So
28th
it's
Street.
sidewalk that you would use on the Eastern to 28th, yes. Otherwise, it's a 10-foot wide paved trail that starts at Ken O'Shea.
Okay, that currently exists. They get you all the way to where it touches Silver Creek?
It'll get you all the way to Plaster Creek Family Park, which is Burton Elementary. And so then we have the railroad. So that's the issue. So we're looking at ways to potentially cross under 131 at Kirkland. There's a railroad crossing there as well. We're working with consumers and other, what we call friendly owners to see if we can figure out a way to continue that trail up.
Okay. And is there any business investment development along that large chunk of, in other words, if you're thinking about this as like something that's going to encourage business investment or development in general, is there already some of that happened along Plaster Creek? Because nothing springs to mind for me.
I think Plaster Creek is hard because that has been developed for a while. So there are a lot of industrial uses along Plaster Creek, but there are also are some smaller, like I can think of Woody's Cone Shop is along the route to get to Eastern. So there are a lot of people who will take the trail to go to that. And those are some of the things that we're looking at too, because there are already large areas that are owned by some of those industrial and commercial users that won't necessarily be easy to change, or we might not want to change them.
Well, I guess I was looking at city manager and going back to the last discussion that we
Right.
had on Kyle, right? And how this plays into that.
Right.
Excuse me.
So if you look at, I have a different map I'm looking at in our circle. Can you go back to one that shows Seymour Square?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that one. That's easier for me to see the cross streets. So if Commissioner Perdue was lifting up the potential infrastructure improvements along Eastern, and that seems to be in the inner loop of this trail conversation. So what I understood, MLK and Eastern, as well as Burton, obviously, in Seymour Square, as well as Boston Square. That seems to be more contiguous to the trail project, Seymour Square and Boston Square. If we were to focus on those infrastructure improvements along MLK, we'd have to be a little bit more intentional on how to tie it to the trail connectivity. So I think what I'm looking for is looking at Ms. Behrens, the group that is helping with the private investment side along the corridor. We are scheduling a meeting, I think, this week or next. 2 weeks, is it 2 weeks from now? And we're trying to really create synergy between the trail plans and the business development plans, and as well as the aspirational CIA vision for what's happening in the various areas. And so I think that meeting will help us have greater clarity, and I've asked for the park staff to be part of it, the engineering staff, our senior economic development staff, and my office, along with members from the county, as well as those from DGRI, as well as Mr. Justin Bean and others. So we'll see if we can try to create more synergy with those plans.
Thank you.
I guess I may as well say it early and say it now. I may have to get conflicted out of some of this at some point because I own a piece of that green stripe.
All right. Well, I want to thank the staff for the work, and we'll look forward to future updates.
Thank you.
All right, one more item, Mayor.
Just the development center report. Right.
So we're going to get a development center report.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Overman with the city's development center. I'm going to provide just kind of an update on the development center activity and get to our presentation here. We've just exceeded, $750 million in construction value last month, which far exceeds anything that we've had in previous years. So it's very exciting to see that development activity happening in the city. In addition to that, we are seeing a reduction in specifically our land use development permits from the time it takes to get the submission submitted to when we issue the actual permit. So that was hovering up around 70 days for that full review cycle to take place. And as you can see, we're down at about 50 days right now. That does fluctuate depending on the size and scope of the projects quite a bit, but we're excited to see those numbers come down there as well. In addition to that, we've been focusing heavily on our inspection services. As some of you likely know, probably getting a few calls on the delays that it takes to that. We've been making strong headway on our electrical inspection side, partnering with Kentwood as well as a few other partners in the community, and that was up to about 3 weeks delay to get an electrical inspection, and right now we're sitting at about 1 week. So we are making some headway with that as well, and looking forward to making that in addition to our mechanical team too. Most areas with mechanical are averaging about 3 days around, but there's a few areas where there is about a 2-week delay that we're trying to balance out through that too. As far as major projects, the soccer stadium permit was issued last month, a full permit. We were operating under the foundation only and land use development permits for that, but the full permit has now been issued for the construction of that project. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Just for clarity, and I wanted to appreciate the city commission approving third-party plans, review, and inspection services while we experience the staffing challenges, as well as the Civil Service Commission making some adjustments to electrical inspector classification. So can you elaborate, because the chart, I want to make sure I'm looking at this right. The chart is showing a smaller workload at the time. Am I reading that correctly for the electrical inspector than in previous years? Is that?
It's a little misleading on it just because we're only showing a portion of this year. It is on track to be about average year. If we look at specifically going back up to kind of the applications received by month, we are still averaging about the standard that we've seen over the last few years. So.
Okay, so from a inventory or log or trailing of the number of inspections that we have in queue, and I apologize, I had to step away. How are we today compared to a few months ago? Is the third-party contractor helping?
Absolutely, yep. Yeah, as noted, like for especially electrical inspections, we were at the beginning of the summer looking at about a 3-week delay, and that is now brought down to about 7 days delay with still some tools that we hope to implement and with a few candidates that we're hoping to onboard here shortly. So.
And so your estimation of us being back on target for our normal inspection time period would be when?
I would probably say in the next 2 months, we should be under that 5-day period where,
Okay, thank you.
as the new staff gets certified and trained up to be able to handle those inspections.
Great. Well, thanks for the report. Anyone else have any questions? Great. Well, thank you. And I think that adjourns us.